It is through the recitation of the book's passages that this dark spirit is given license to possess the living.
Number one rule in horror movies, by the way, is if you find a book with spells or something in it, maybe don't read it out loud. Hi guys, welcome to Keepin' It Real. I'm Ryan, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite horror movies of all time, Evil Dead 2.
Recorded here are the phonetic pronunciations of those passages.
Kanda. Amantos Kanda.
Heads up, if you don't want to see blood and things like that, move on to another one of my reviews. Most of them, as you can tell, I do not do this graphic content warning for. So this is definitely special. It is one of the most violent movies that you could possibly watch out there. We're going to get into that. That's what we're going to be talking about. That's the movie we're into today. Is a cult classic. Evil Dead 2 was released in 1987 and is directed by Sam Raimi, who later went on to direct the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, as well as another great horror movie called Drag Me to Hell. And it also stars Bruce Campbell in his iconic role as Ash J. Williams. And Ashley J. Williams is the coolest horror movie hero ever. Evil Dead 2 has a much higher budget than the first Evil Dead, and the reason I'm talking about Evil Dead 2 instead of the first one is because Evil Dead 2 is really the birth of this franchise. So the Evil Dead 1, consider that an experimental film. It's great, it's awesome, and it's very entertaining, but it's definitely a low-budget horror movie, and it's very original, but it's campy, and it knows that it's campy.
No, it was the woods themselves. They're alive, Ashley.
Evil Dead 1 kind of has to be put aside because when they made Evil Dead 2 and the later sequels, they kind of had to say, listen, we didn't have the distribution rights to be able to use the footage for our own damn movie, and so we have to just kind of pretend like it doesn't exist. So the first 20 minutes or so of Evil Dead 2 is kind of a reshot, rehash of the first movie, and then it progresses into its own new and original thing. They took the best elements of the first movie, they incorporated comedy into it, and they had a higher budget, and they were able to create things like Henrietta and other fun little characters and demons and things like that, and deadites.
I'll swallow your soul! I'll swallow your soul!
Swallow this.
The Evil Dead 2 also injects a lot more of the intentional comedy into it.
Here's your new home.
A lot of the comedy that came from Evil Dead first one is that, it was so low budget that the over-the-topness and things like that and the violence was comical if you're in the right mindset, whereas Evil Dead 2 actually goes for Three Stooges kind of like laughs. It's a kind of slapsticky. Bruce Campbell takes a beating like no other throughout this movie, and he continues to take beatings like this throughout the franchise because it later spawned the third film, Army of Darkness, another great movie that I grew up with.
Batu, Miranda.
And then also eventually turned into a Starz TV show for 3 seasons, and it was, in my opinion, one of the best shows on television, and not enough people watched it, and so after 3 seasons, unfortunately, it was canceled. But wow, it was such a great show.
Yo, Granny. Let's go.
is an incredibly entertaining franchise, and it really came to fruition with Evil Dead 2, because Evil Dead 2 is where, for instance, we get the chainsaw arm. Ash J. Williams takes his girlfriend to a cabin for a romantic getaway.
Hey, there's a tape recorder here.
See what's on it.
Number one rule in horror movies, by the way, is if you find a book with spells or something in it, maybe don't read it out loud.
I read a passage from that book. They released some evil.
You're all going to die tonight.
Like, come on, common sense. Don't read from the Book of the Dead out loud. Don't play with Ouija boards. This is how it happens, of course. And he summons Kandarian demons in the form of deadites, and they possess people and take them over, and they possess his girlfriend, and he ends up killing her. She resurrects herself and does this comical dance. And one of the reasons why I'm talking about that scene is because they use this really cool stop animation stuff for it. And a lot of these guys that worked on the special effects for this movie went on to do much bigger and better movies, including one of the guys that worked on this movie was Greg Nicotero, who's now one of the showrunners for The Walking Dead. Sam Raimi was friends with the Coen brothers, and they got their start around the same time that the Evil Dead got their start at. In fact, the second movie the Coen brothers did, and the second film that Sam Raimi did, was a collaboration. They wrote it together.
Crime Wave!
It couldn't possibly have been worse.
It's very interesting. This film has a lot of connections, and it influenced horror and the way that movies subjectively view horror. And so this movie is the perfect combination of horror and comedy. It is a Cabin in the Woods style movie where demons are involved, but yet there's also this comedic element because Ash Williams is kind of an asshole, but in a funny way, Ryan Reynolds-y kind of way, as we think of it, smart aleck. And so he's taking on these demons, and of course, as the franchise progresses, this character becomes more and more interesting and developed as we go, but this is the birth of him, really. It's also hilarious. And when you watch it with the right mindset, not only does it give you the heebie-jeebies, because there are those moments where it's kind of creepy, ooh, but then there are these moments where it's super, super awesome, and then there's also these moments that are super hilarious, like, in particular, the laughing scene. Super, super fun. I really like that scene. I enjoy it very much so. And the movie plays out like that. It has this slapstick style thing to it. There's a great scene where he's smashing plates on his head and flipping himself over because his hand is possessed. And then this eventually leads to him chopping off his own hand. I'm not going to show you the graphicness of that, but we'll give you the blood-splattered face. Here you go. Blood-splattered face. There you go. He's chopping off his hand. It's off screen anyways, but there you go. Blood-splattered face. I'm showing you that because it's an iconic image from the movie, kind of like his turn when he laughs, and there you go. That's also an iconic look from the movie. He cuts off his hand, and eventually the hand starts running around, and that was a fun little thing, kind of like the Thing from the Addams Family, where the hand's moving around without a body, and it flips him off and does all kinds of shit. It's just causing ruckus. It makes sounds. And anyways, this movie is hilarious. It's so funny. You have to look at it as a comedy. If you look at this movie as a comedy set in a horror setting, it's one of the best movies ever made. Now, not quality-wise, I get it. There are movies that are much higher quality and things like that. But like, this movie is so much fun to watch. And for the creators of this movie, it was so much fun for them to make.
It's very frightening. Very scary. Don't be alarmed, because you see, it's only a picture.
Some people will look at things and say, well, that doesn't look very good, whereas I look at it and say, wow, isn't that creative? There's a little toy car going across a bridge as an example, and if you have a keen eye, you can see that it's a toy car going across the bridge, but like, That's creative, man. They got super creative in this movie. They didn't have a super, super high budget. It was high, but not like ridiculously high. It was enough to hire people and have animators and things like that. And these guys just had so much fun at all times creating this movie, filming this movie, editing this movie. And they did it their way, and they didn't have studio oversight, and they didn't have people watching over them. And they just had a really good time making this movie. And it turned into a cult sensation and something just super, super phenomenal. I love this movie. I watch it almost every Halloween. I go through the entire franchise, and now I have the show, and the show is just absolutely phenomenal. It's called Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Things get hairy, use your bottle.
I don't think it's a very good weapon, Hefe. You had to stab like 50 times.
I was sharpening it for you. Now, come on. You ready?
I absolutely love The Evil Dead 2, and I highly recommend that this Halloween season you go watch it, as well as the rest of the franchise. Super, super fun and great for Halloween time because you get the thrills and the laughs. It's horror and it's comedy, and it's the perfect blend of the two. I can't really consider Armory of Darkness a full-blown horror movie. It's a lot more of a comedy. But Evil Dead 2 is definitely still a horror movie, and it is my favorite horror movie of all time. And so I'm going to give it a 98 out of 100. That 2% is for the fact that it doesn't hold up all that well, special effects-wise and things like that. But, like, goddamn, is this movie fun to watch.
Let's go.
Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Keeping It Real. I'm Ryan, and I will see you for the next review.
Here we go. Try this piece of poetry. It'll blow your mind.
Kunda.
Misogynist.
Miss Drone Bean.